Hey there, Bryan Durkin here, your host of the Driveway Marketing Podcast, the road to six figures for home service pros just like you. And I want to share with you in this episode, as we're early on in our adventure together, that I want to share with you a little bit about a mission. I know that sounds a little woo-woo for some of you, but why am I doing what I'm doing? Because most of what you hear, and 90% of you that are listening to this, I might not ever know. And quite honestly, I'm okay with that because I want to know that I can influence people, not necessarily because I have a one-on-one interaction with you, but I want you to get to know me and, more importantly, my experts, my guests, my friends, colleagues that are going to come on and join us on this adventure so that you can have the business you want and not the business you have. You're going to hear me using those words all throughout the podcast because we often get caught up in this never-ending cycle and we're always behind the eight ball. So when we're busy, we don't market and we don't hire sales, or we don't build a staff, or we don't build operating procedures. They sound all really boring and they're not really sexy and they're not fun. But the reality of it is, if you want to grow your business, marketing is one giant piece of it, but it's not the only piece. So that's why I wanted to marry this object of where we talk about marketing, but we want to think about things that are really important to successful businesses. Peter Drucker once said, if you don't know who he is, Google him. It's a fantastic guy. He's got some great books from a long time ago. They're relevant today as they were when they were done, written in the 60s. And there's only two things that matter. That's marketing and innovation. And if you think about that, he talked about that in the 60s, the beginning of the modern era of business in the Western world. And if you think about how that applies to a home service business, you go, yeah, it doesn't apply to me. Certainly it does. Everyone, if you look at every ad in your Valpak, pick through them and it's going to be the same ad. It's going to be a picture of the truck or a picture of some project, and it's going to say family owned since 1999. And the reality of it is it doesn't matter. So that you'd be better off talking about different things. And we actually have a guy that's a direct response guy who's going to come in and talk later on about how to create an ad that jumps out at people and makes them want to pick up the phone, pick up the email, fill out your form, get you to buy immediately. But see, my mission is to help people think differently about their business. If you think differently about your business, and quite honestly, one of my mentors, Dan Kennedy, always talk about, if everyone's doing the same thing, run in the opposite direction. And so I'm challenging you as listeners to think about your business differently, because in essence, I always say this when I meet people, every business is the same. And they look at me and they go, oh no, my business is different. Well, that's not true. Your business isn't different. You have customers, you have a product or service, someone needs to consume it. You got to get paid for it. And unless you're in a complete commodity business where you have no control over the output. So if you're selling gold, then you're a gold miner and you're selling gold, you're completely dependent on outside markets to buy your product. I would imagine there's not a lot of people listening to this podcast that have a gold mine. If you do, let me know. I'm going to come visit. I think that'd be awesome. But back on track here. We want to make this mission. We want you to have fun. We want you to think differently. And most importantly, we want you to implement something. Now, not everything you're going to hear or download or experience over this journey is going to be something that identifies with you. But every single element is a component in a bigger framework that allows you to get to a certain level. I've got a good friend of mine. He happens to run I don't even know how many figures it is, over $100 million business. Family started business in the 70s. They're on the third generation. The business started out, they thought they were successful at 10 million, then they were 25. Now they're doing over 100 million. And I asked him, what's the difference? He said, we just keep implementing more and more systems on as they can. And while those systems may sound really scary, they're really not if you implement them one at a time. In fact, we've got one of the people in our Inner Circle program that we've helped him, implement 27 different systems, from a simple thank you card for placing an order to following up on customer service surveys or sending postcards. So none of these have to be overly complicated. And quite frankly, the more able you are to implement these small systems as you grow, the more understanding you'll have of why they work, and then you can make sure they get done. So anyway, so that's back to the kind of thought here is, what's our mission? What are we doing? And who's it going to benefit? So what are we doing? We're talking about marketing. We're talking about strategies. We're talking about hiring because marketing matters, right? If you have a good marketing system, you're going to get the best people to work for you because you have the best customers and they're willing to pay more. You're going to get the best staff. You're going to have the coolest trucks in town. You're going to be able to afford that 72-foot center console from that's worth $3 million. Quick aside here, anyone can be successful in my community. The Portillo hot dog family, I didn't even know they existed. I'm not from the Midwest. Sold their business to private equity for like $900 million. God bless them. I think it's amazing. But what was cool is the guy built a boat to live behind a $1 zillion house. And then he tows his $1 zillion center console to the Keys behind his $1 zillion boat, behind his $1 zillion house. And that boy's doing it the right way. He had systems. He just sold hot dogs. So if you think about it at the most fundamental level, we look at them and use inspiration and try to draw from them what they're doing, how they did it, and what can we emulate into my business. So, all right, that's it for this episode. I feel the need to go get a hot dog, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.